As AI innovators gear up to compete on the road, companies in the AI military sector are marching hard to get in on President Trump's Golden Dome defense shield. Trump says the dome will cost $125 billion, although experts predict that's a low estimate figure. The AI company Palantir and defense company Anduril are reportedly frontrunners to build key parts of the system.
Joe Lonsdale just dropped a bombshell on Trump's Golden Dome. Check this video out before the mainstream catches on.
What a coincidence that we have the innovator who knows a great deal about both of these companies because he helped launch one of them and is heavily invested in both. Joe Lonsdale is a co-founder of Palantir, and his VC firm 8VC is a major investor now in Anduril, the very quickly growing drone company. Joe, let me first get your response and your reaction to this official announcement that the president made yesterday about the Golden Dome. What do you foresee and who might benefit?
You know, Liz, I think this is really smart. The one area where, thanks to Elon Musk, where we have just absolute supremacy is our access and the cost to get things to space and to do things in space. And we should be using that. We should be using it so that even if North Korea or Iran or someone else somehow does get access to something they try to fire at us, that we shoot it down and protect ourselves. And this is an obvious thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It's going to be a big, beautiful Golden Dome, and I'm really excited to help them with it.
Are we finally seeing the private sector take the lead in national defense? Isn't this exactly what innovation in America should look like? This is the future of defense. Private innovation working hand in hand with national security. Palantir and Anduril are not just contractors. They're builders of the next defense paradigm. Why rely on outdated defense models when you've got Palantir and SpaceX in the mix? Isn't it time we stopped underestimating what tech founders can deliver in national security?
Yeah, well, SpaceX, you're referencing SpaceX because he launched that more than a decade ago, and it now has so many successful launches, and they're reusable. They're way more cost effective than what the Rockwells of yesteryear and Lockheed Martin were doing back in the day. But Joe, tell me exactly where you think the opportunity lies for a company like Anduril, in which you have invested, and Palantir, which you helped co-found.
Well, listen, Liz, there's going to need to be a bunch of primes. There's going to need to be Palantir and Anduril. There's going to need to be things like EPRIS protecting things. I mean, there's just so many parts of this, right? So you're going to want to have the space awareness system to watch everything in the world. I think right now some of the primes run those things. You're going to want to have new ways these things all coordinate and work with our battlefield control system. So Defense Ground Control System, the Army Futures is having really Palantir and Anduril work together on the next version of that, which is the entire battle awareness system that all of our new tens of thousands of units plug into and work together. This is all going to have to be coherent with that. And you have to be protected, right? So you have things watching things in space. You have to defend satellites. If satellites are going to be shooting things down, how are you going to defend the satellites? There's lots of ways of doing that. They have to be able to move in different ways. They have to be able to blast energy blasts to turn off incoming missiles. So there's lots of really interesting parts of this system. A lot of it's, of course, very classified. That's why you don't get too many people on TV talking about it. I get myself in trouble. I don't have my clearances these days, but I'm probably going to get them again here. I got to be really careful what I say about it. But there's all these ways. You need a lot of smart people working on different parts of it. And we have that talent in our country. I'm glad we're using it.
What if every military unit on Earth could see the same battlefield in real time? Predictive, synced, and fully aware. That's not decades away. That's what Palantir is coding right now. Think of the old defense industry like a rotary phone, slow, clunky, and isolated. This new ecosystem, it's a smart grid, fast, integrated, and built for the unexpected. Sound crazy? Lonsdale says we're already there.
Yeah, and it's taking a lot of federal government money, a minimum $125 billion, but a lot of innovation coming from the private sector, which is right in your wheelhouse. You are really working on that, but also healthcare innovation. Can you give me a sense of the investments you've made that you think will be massive game changers that do weave in AI and technical innovation?
Yeah, well, obviously AI is totally changing what's possible in healthcare and bio. As we were talking on the break, there's a big crisis in our country because our biosector is starting to deliver a lot of amazing cures, but it takes 8 to 12 years to get things through the FDA. China has accelerated to the point where it takes 4 or 5 years there, and they're starting to steal away a lot of things. They'll see something we're working on, we'll make a big investment, and a year or two later, they'll take it through their own FDA, some other version of going after the target, and they'll own it and they'll sell it back to our pharma companies before our FDA let us get done. And if you look at the numbers, they've gone from 0 to 30% of everything in the last 7 years. And they're accelerating so quickly, they're going to be the majority in the next few years if we don't get our act together. And, Marty McCary is a great leader for the FDA, but he and the president and Bobby Kennedy have to be bold and have to say, listen, we are going to actually have new pathways. We're not going to let the bureaucracy say no. We're going to be as fast as China. Because if we're not, I put a lot of money. I put billions of dollars to work in bio. We just had a big exit with Sanofi buying one of our drugs. It closed this week. It was a great new antibody drug. AI is a key to developing these things. It's going to help a lot of people with autoimmune B-cell depletion. Great. We're still making money on it. But a bunch of other things I'm looking at now, I don't want to put money if China's going to be able to steal it and run ahead. It's not worth it. And a lot of people are not putting money to work as much anymore because of that. So this is a big crisis of innovation in this sector. And we're really hoping the government gets its act together.
This isn't just about healthcare. It's about national security. Letting China outpace us in bio AI is a strategic failure in slow motion. The innovation is here. The money is ready. What's missing? Government urgency and bold reform to match China's speed. Imagine we had an FDA that moved as fast as our AI models. Wouldn't we unlock a new era of cures and keep leadership where it belongs? It's frustrating and honestly heartbreaking to see US talent and capital hesitate, not because the ideas aren't good, but because our system isn't fast enough to keep up.
Well, exactly. And it's kind of a bifurcated issue here. That might not even be the right word, double-edged sword. We definitely want to take the leadership position, but we also don't want to let China, even whether it's directly or indirectly, get any of this technology, because they're pretty good at stealing. We just had David Sachs, the AI and crypto czar, a friend of yours I know, on the show yesterday. And I asked him, because there were so many questions that we're giving so much technology in an exchange with the Middle East from the president's trip just last week. And there is some concern that China, which is not an enemy of the Saudis or any of the Middle Eastern countries, I mean, Xi Jinping has visited those places. Here's what David Sachs had to say when I asked him about the concerns that that might be an opportunity to come in a side window for the Chinese to take the tech.
We can secure the chips, but the question is, who do we want these countries to partner with? If we reject them, we're going to drive them into the arms of China, and China would love to sell the chips to these countries. We will create a Huawei Belt and Road if we don't enable their AI dreams and aspirations.
If we don't step up and lead in AI partnerships, who will? Can we really afford to leave that vacuum open for China to fill? Global leadership in AI isn't just about chips, it's about relationships. Rejecting our allies only opens the door for Beijing. This is a high-stakes chess game, and walking away from the board doesn't mean the game stops. It means we lose by default. What if, in 5 years, half of the Middle East's AI infrastructure runs on Chinese hardware? We won't just be outpaced, we'll be outmaneuvered.
Joe, how do we ensure that our technology isn't somehow ripped off by the Chinese?
Well, Liz, first of all, I absolutely agree with David. We work with some really great partners in the Middle East who are very clearly on the side of the West versus China for a lot of issues, but they're not going to stick with us forever if we ice them out. I think there's some very well-run governments in the UAE and others. They are important allies from the Abraham Accords, and I think it's a big mistake not to engage with them. But you're right. We have to track where these things go. We have to track where they're used. But I mean, I think the number one thing is actually like bringing back manufacturing to the U.S., bringing back advanced manufacturing, biomanufacturing, supply chains in bio, supply chains in defense. These are all things that we can use government incentives and we could use government frameworks, to re-incent and to take away the regulation that's pushing it offshore. And to me, those are the bigger issues. And yes, track where our technology goes, but don't isolate ourselves. Let us actually compete and win by not letting our regulators get in our own way. Like, that's the bigger problem we need to solve.
Can we really talk about securing tech without first securing where it's made? How can we control what we no longer manufacture? You don't win a tech war by isolating friends. You win by building trust and tightening supply chains at home. Back in 2016, I remember a biotech founder saying, "It's easier to build in Singapore than San Diego." That shouldn't still be true today, but it is. What if we brought home advanced bio and defense manufacturing? We wouldn't just protect our tech, we'd control its destiny. It's sad when the biggest obstacle to American innovation, let's say, is American bureaucracy, but we can change that if we're bold enough.